Hello, everyone. So today I will be reflecting on two interviews that I had with student affairs professionals. Questions based on the interview process, being prepared for the interview process, and how I will use this to help me prepare for my interview process. Also, questions on the student affairs profession on a whole, and how I can better prepare myself for my career to be successful within my career. So the two individuals that I interviewed were Haley Snyder and Candace Thompson. Haley and Candace are both working in housing. They both have a housing background at EIU. They're both graduate assistants here. And Candace now works at the University of Southern California, and Haley now works at the University of California, Davis, as resident directors. So out of the 10 questions, actually 11, 12 questions, one bonus question, there was a lot to really think about, and different things that struck out to me in my preparation as a student affairs professional. When looking at the job search, for instance, Haley and Snyder brought up some very good points. Mostly about being organized, applying for different jobs, and being prepared for that in terms of like having your cover letter ready, making sure that you're not repeating a lot of work, and making sure that you're very good at the interview, and that you give details. And that's something that I know is very, very important, to give examples. Like during my interviews with, for my internship, I had to give like concrete examples. Okay, yes, I'm a people's person, but this is how I am a people's person, or this is what I have done that can prove that I'm a people's person. With Candace Thompson, she said, like, make sure that you show up authentically, and that your work will speak for itself. And that's something that I definitely agree with. I definitely want to be myself in my career, and also show up authentically in my interview, and not be afraid of asking the right questions in the interview as well, because I'm also interviewing them. I want to make sure that they are a good fit for me. Transferable skills, question on that. Both Haley and Snyder didn't really have to use a lot of transferable skills, because they moved from housing at EIU to housing at their new institutions. So what was different for Haley is that, or what she said that was really a transferable skill for her, is that there's a lot of changes going on at UC Davis, and at EIU there were also a lot of changes. So that environment prepared her for the environment that she's working in right now. And Candace has said that there's really not that much of a difference, but right now she's in charge of a lot more buildings, a lot more staff, a lot more students. So for me, working in student life office, if I'm moving to another institution and I'm going to work in another office, I do need to think about transferable skills, like working with multicultural organizations, advising students. How would that have built my leadership? How would organizing events helped me with planning projects, project management, and how working with students would have helped me with student development theories, applying student development theories. So I would definitely have to look at like all of my skills, and depending on the roles that I'm applying for, I then tailor. I then basically tell them what my transferable skills are. So yes, I worked in a different department before, but I can still work in this new department because of everything I've learned in this previous role. What makes them want to work in the department that they're in. So both of them really enjoy the work that they do, and the people that they work with, and also, for Haley specifically, she felt like the university that she works in is a very good fit. And for Candace, She's really happy that her department has a lot of resources and she has the opportunity to be involved in other like committees, DI committee, Veterans Committee. So you really have to look at the department that you are going to work in and really do some research on that department in order for you to be happy in that position and happy in that department. And you have to remind yourself daily as to why you chose student affairs, and why you want to stay in student affairs. So you have to be able to celebrate your wins and don't let your losses take over you. And that's something that I definitely want to apply in my new role and keep in mind in my new role. Another thing that stood out to me is Haley mentioning the importance of work-life balance. That's very, very important to me, and I want to make sure that the university I work with also values that. Challenges on the job and what you like most and least. For Haley, she likes the fact that things are constantly new and innovative. However, constant change can also be exhausting, and I understand that perspective. Candice loves working with the people with her colleagues, but she finds her director to be very introverted, so that can be a little bit difficult for her because she's very much a people's person. So it's okay for there to be challenges on the job. Like no job is going to be perfect. No department is going to be perfect. And I have to realize that when I move into my new role. And then also amplify what I like about my job. And if there's something I don't like about my job, maybe I can think of a way to be flexible, to allow myself to still appreciate the wins. What surprised you most coming in as a new professional? Haley had said that she didn't really look at the benefits side of the job. She was more focused on the department fit. And then Candice was surprised that she was the youngest amongst her colleagues, and also acknowledged or learned that she will never be able to know it all. Everything that she learned at EIU would not necessarily be applicable to her new institution. So because no department is the same. So I do have to be just open to the possibility of surprises as a new professional. It's not always going to run 100% smoothly at work. And I have to just work on, getting better every single day and giving myself grace to get better every day. And also as an international student, I might not know much about the benefits that I'm looking for. So therefore, it'd be very important for me to ask somebody who knows better what exactly should I look for in the benefits. What advice you have for me as I enter the job search process? What advice do you have as you maneuvered through the process and it dragged on? So Haley basically spoke on not just jumping on the first opportunity, opportunity you get to work in a job, the first position. Don't just jump on it. Like if you see red flags, like don't take the position, don't take that offer, and then take your time as well. Candice says that you should have a backup plan. No process is the same. Don't compare yourself to others. And for her, it would have been more difficult because of her status as an international student. For her, it was very good to put God and her faith first, and that helped her through the process because it was quite challenging. And at times she did get depressed as the process dragged on, but then she was victorious and she got a job offer, which means that it is possible. And I have to keep that in mind as an international student as well, that it is possible for me to get a university to sponsor me. So I just have to be organized and apply early and make sure that I'm ready to face that challenge. Were you offered more than one job? How did you manage making that decision? Haley said that she got a job from EIU and UC Davis, and she wanted to try something different. So she and her partner decided to go to California. And Candice says she was not because of COVID, and also I'm sure because of her international student status as well, that would have affected things for her. So for me, if I'm being made, if I have to make a decision for more than one offer, I would have to weigh the pros and cons of each job. Like, where exactly do I want to work? What is this? How does the salary compare? How does the department compare? How do the benefits compare? And that's something that I would have to think about before making that decision. Size of institution and considerations as you began your job search. Candice, definitely was important for her to be at a bigger university, somewhere close to an airport, and to be in a city, so she had access to certain things. Haley said that Davis is pretty big, so she chose a big institution. And what's nice about working in a big institution is that the work is more divided, so you wear less hats, and then there's more resources. So for me, I think that I would be open to working in a small, medium-sized, or large institution. So I think, like, for me, it's important to remain open-minded. I can't narrow it down too much because of my international student status. So I definitely would want to look and see what's out there. But also keep in mind that I would like to live in a more rural area, a more urban area rather than rural. So that is important to me, to have access to certain foods and certain activities that I might want to do. What was the process you experienced in acclimating to a new institution? What advice would you give to me as I think about this transition? So Haley mentioned using Google to look up the location that you're living in, as well as your job, your department. Also mentioned that your first year is your learning experience. And I've heard that before from my supervisor director at Columbia, that the first year is a learning experience. And that's really something to consider, because you might want to get everything right one time and you can't. So you do have to give yourself grace. Candice says it's very good to make connections. So don't be afraid to make connections with individuals, with your colleagues, and making friends and going out and exploring. So that's definitely going to help you with acclimating. And that definitely did also help me with acclimating when I was working in New York at Columbia. How do you know you're doing a good job? How do you deal with your bad days? Haley said, I know I'm doing a good job if I've improved the process or line of communication. Some days just suck and you absolutely cannot take it home. So don't take home your problems. You should focus on the good things that you have done at work. Not that you cannot acknowledge the bad that has happened, but don't let it hold you down. And that's something that I also, want to apply when I start working in my new role. And also now, don't be too hard on yourself. Acknowledge your wins and try to minimize the bad days. I mean, you have to feel your emotions, but at the same time, you don't let it take over you. And that's also kind of said something similar as well. She really enjoys the field. She enjoys working with people and helping people. And she knows that bad days will come, but she's not going to allow the bad days to get with her, and find ways to decompress. So I have to, again, work-life balance comes in. When you have a bad day, what are you going to do? Are you going to talk to a friend? I might talk to a friend. I might go out to a restaurant. I might do something fun, go see a movie, take a hot shower, find a way to decompress and just keep moving. How did the pandemic shift how you work as a student affairs professional? So both Haley and Candace said that there were changes, obviously, during COVID. Haley said, however, so many people are half remote, or the default is not meeting in person. So she said that the level of flexibility has increased. There's some positivity to it, but it's also meeting people in person is also very beneficial. Sometimes I've had issues that have been going on for an extended period of time, and then once I meet with that person in person, they get resolved. However, there is great flexibility to meet online. And Candace said she has a better appreciation of the importance of an in-person interaction. She has learned the value of creating out-of-the-box programs. It has also shifted her perspective, and also being flexible. So both of them are basically saying like they could see the value of everything that they've learned during COVID, but at the same time, they also know the value of doing in-person work or having these in-person discussions. So maybe if you could find a balance between these two, being in person and also being flexible. A big, I would say, a big issue right now is a lot of professionals would like to have the option of having a flexible work schedule, like maybe having one day as a flexible day where you're able to work at home. And I can see that being important to me as well, a certain level of flexibility in my role. I plan on having a family, so I do want to also give them time or be present at home. And if in one day of the week I could have a flexible schedule, then that would be really good. And then the last question is, what was your process as an international candidate of applying and getting your job? What things do you need to consider, or did you need to consider in that process? So Candace said quite a few things. She looked at applying for jobs much earlier, November and December, much earlier than the rest of her classmates. She had to keep on telling herself to keep in mind that getting a job is possible, because it was discouraging at times for her. However, she was applying during COVID. And then location was important to her because she really wanted an institution close to an airport and to the city, like we mentioned before. And then she was looking at targeting bigger institutions as well as states that she heard are more willing to sponsor, like California and Georgia. And then she heard also state schools are more willing to sponsor. Then she'd have a script after her first round of an interview, and she'll ask the potential employees if they would be willing to sponsor her after her OPT. She said, broaden your options, and consider starting off with housing, because there's a lot of jobs available in housing. So there's a lot for me to think of as an international candidate as I'm applying for jobs. I need to obviously have status to work in the US, so I might have to apply for OPT to start working. If I'm lucky, I'll get a job where they just sponsor me right away, but that's not guaranteed. And there might be moments when I'm discouraged. There might be moments when I'm applying for a job and I'm not sure if they sponsor, and then they're also not sure if their institution sponsors, because Candace had mentioned that was also an issue that she had gone through. But all I can do is my best. So what I can do is put my best foot forward in my resume, in my job letters, in my interviews, and do my best to really go into detail about my skills and believe that I'm the best candidate for the job. And I will get the job. I have faith that I'll get the job that I rightfully deserve. Thank you.